One of the interesting things about driving in Idaho is the many different roadway types that we have in our state. From freeways to dirt roads, Idaho drivers quickly learn that there are different driving styles for different roadway conditions. We're going to take a few minutes to look at these different driving conditions. We're going to look at city driving, rural driving, and highway or interstate driving. Following that, we'll look at the concept of sharing the road, and then take a short look at the growing use of electronic message boards on our highways. But we'll start with a look at the subject of city driving. First, let's discuss some of the problems of city driving, and then we'll dive into some of the methods that make it a little easier for you to get around. In city driving, the first thing you'll probably notice is that a whole bunch more happens in a much denser area. To put it differently, it's a lack of space. Lack of space for driving, no space between vehicles, more pedestrians, and vehicles taking up space, and even a lack of parking spaces. And the main issue is the lack of space is congestion. Everything is closer together because there are now more vehicles, pedestrians, and other roadway users who are all trying to find space so that they can move around. What drivers often find in cities is that because cities are never planned and laid out all at once, and traffic patterns change, streets aren't all perfect and standardized. You'll have more one-way streets and roadways of different sizes. This all helps to increase congestion. Traffic lights are necessary because of traffic volume and pedestrian safety. All this congestion and lack of space can have a serious effect on drivers. Maybe the biggest effect city driving has on motorists is that it gets a lot tougher to monitor all the things going on around you that could affect your driving. So on top of everything else, there are a lot more distracted drivers. There are things we can do, though, to make our city driving easier. If you're thinking about the big picture of driving in the city, one of the simplest ways to deal with it is to avoid it. But if you can't avoid it completely, try to avoid having to do it anywhere near rush hours. Peak traffic hours in most urban centers are between 7 a.m. and 9 a.m. and between 4 p.m. and 6 p.m. If you can, leave the driving to someone who gets paid for it. Take public transit or a cab. It also helps if you stay with the flow of traffic in the right lane. This leaves the left lane for everyone who thinks they're late. To make things safe for you and other drivers, one of the easiest things to do is to just give yourself more time to get to where you're going. By doing a little planning and giving yourself more time, you'll find that not only are you driving better, but you're noticing more of what's going on around you. This has another benefit. By allowing you to drive slower, you can actually focus on maintaining your speed with the flow of traffic. Traffic experts say this is one of the keys to minimizing what are called phantom traffic jams. These are those accordion-style traffic slowdowns that seem to appear for no reason. We'll talk about them more later in the course. Something else we could talk about a little later in the class is a technique of scanning as far ahead as you can and seeing the roadway. This allows you to better anticipate what's happening in front of you, in time to better react to it. You can also learn to maintain a space cushion around you as you drive. While this is sometimes tough to do in city driving, it gives you a chance of having a way out if an emergency happens near you. When driving in the city, most drivers know where they're going. Never wait until the last moment before you change lanes to turn. Beyond just rude, it's dangerous. If you're lucky, the lane is empty, and you cut someone off. If you're not lucky, the lane is occupied, and you've just created an emergency driving maneuver, or worse, a collision. The last tip is this. If you're not familiar with the part of the city you're going to be driving in, get a little knowledge ahead of time by looking at a map and using a GPS receiver if you have one available. Now we can take a look at rural driving.